Good morning and welcome to our Blabbing for Britain. This is week 11. If you're watching now and you want to join in, then you can join in by text. Rob's on the right hand side, open your text /Q to ask a question. You can see both John and myself on the screen. If you like what we're saying, just click on our photos and we'll get props. If we're speaking to ourselves, we can give each other props. It is very quiet this morning, thank you. If you do ask a question, then it will go on the left hand side. I'm just going to tweet it out as well, John. We might get
pick the odd one
viewers. Yeah, I think if we just keep on chatting for sort of a quarter of an hour or so, then
yes, for some reason, even though we say 10 o'clock start, people seem to come in about 10:15.
True.
You should say 9:45 start.
Well, we could do it. We could do it. Start earlier and sort of give people a chance to join us. Although we could, I suppose we could move to a lunchtime slot. I don't know. What do you think?
I think we leave it at 10 at the moment.
Right. Okay. No worries. Right. Well, in news this week, in my mind, one of the guests on one of the shows was a very special person, and that was Tony Robbins. That's Tony Robbins of Awaken the Giant Within, and he was interviewed earlier in the week, live on air, live on Blab, and I'm just going to post a link here. It was interviewed by Anthony Conklin, and he did about 25 minutes, and people got to ask him questions live on air, and it was good. It was like going to one of his mega concerts and be able to ask questions. So he's a fan now. I think he enjoyed it. And the other interview of the week was with the CEO of Blab, Sean Puri, and he was interviewed on Monday, and he came on board for about an hour, and he talked about all things Blab, about how Blab started, where they're going, what the targets are. He didn't release any actual figures, but he did say that they'll actually their target is to grow 7% a week. Now that's quite a number when you think about it. That's a fair rate of growth, and they're not going to market. They're going to go word of mouth because they've decided that marketing this day and age should be by making things go viral, and they work on the principle that if we enjoy it, then we'll tell other people come in, they'll enjoy it, and so on. So that's the way it's going to go. The much vaunted additional third or fourth screen where you can actually embed things has been demonstrated but not gone live yet, which is not too far away. The basic principle on that is that, yeah, exactly, Kelvin, word of mouth is the way they're going to grow, and that seems to be going pretty well. On the third or fourth screen is to be able to type in a link, and for that then web page to come live into the Blab. So if it was SlideShare, then you could bring SlideShare straight into the Blab. You could run through your slides. People could watch them, but not only that, the screen is interactive, so you can follow somebody on SlideShare just through watching on screen. Additionally, YouTube, you can bring a YouTube in, and you can play YouTube back in one of the windows, and again people can subscribe. It's interactive, and that's going to be brilliant, because also if you can, then there are going to be a lot of people actually linking to their desktops in there, but we don't know yet the size of the window, which is obviously of some importance, isn't it, John?
Yes, because as we've seen from many where people have tried to cram things in,
yeah,
still quite small.
Yeah. Unless
something like
yeah, Kelvin.
We know we can do it in many cam, but it's not very clever, Kelvin. I don't know if you've seen appear.in, but there the people are reduced to the bottom of the screen as small windows, and you get a decent sized window above that you can show whatever it is you want to show in. And we're kind of hoping, well, I think I am, and I think Stephen is as well, that it's something similar to that.
Yeah, indeed, because it's got to be visible. I mean, if you're doing slide share, then you have to make sure that all the slides fitted in this box. Anyway, you have
square, not
square
43 or 16:9 or whatever.
Yeah. And I think what they want to do is to take the original content, not to have content specifically made for Blab. But we're waiting to see that arrive. We'll be one of the first to test it when it does. We shall try it out and see how it works. Yeah, indeed. We're not saying that technically the Minicam has problems, but it is just that if it's native to Blab and Blab have control of it, then the more things are possible. In addition to playing back the video, you could also like it, you could subscribe to a person's channel, a whole range of things, just like you can do on the embedded Blabs. Yeah, so that's the real Blab news. In other news, of course, this being Blabbing for Britain, it's good to say that Mr. Andy Murray is still British. He's in the semi-finals of the Australian Open, which is absolutely brilliant, and we wish him well for his match tomorrow, and hope to see him in the finals on Sunday. And even better news, Miss Conter, who was born in South Africa but is now most definitely British, is the first lady to reach the Australian women's single semi-finals since 1987, since Joe Jury. And she's come from nowhere. She wasn't expected to do well in the tournament. So we have two people, two Brits, in the semi-finals in Melbourne in Australia this week. And we wish them well. But if that wasn't good enough, we've got three, because Jamie Murray, who of course is Andy Murray's brother, is a doubles tennis player, and he and his partner, his new partner, are in the semi-finals of the men's doubles. So there you go. It's a good week for Britain in tennis. Yeah. Oh, right. Thanks, Kelvin. Right. It's okay. I came straight on the Blab without reading the news, but she did brilliantly well too in the semis. So that's the tennis. Do we talk football this week? How are things going? Are you going?
I'm not sure whether Mr. Black, is it Mr. Black? Yes, I'm not sure whether Eric Black is actually going to rescue us or not.
Right.
The current feeling in Birmingham is he's been taken on because our Frenchmen can't communicate with the players other than the French players, because Eric speaks German and Spanish as well, you see.
Oh, right, okay.
French, German, Spanish and English. So he could talk to all of our players.
Well, there you go. That's interesting. So to be a British football manager, you've got to have linguistic skills. You've got to be able to speak French, German, Spanish.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, our one of the brothers that's in Spain is struggling, isn't he? Communicating with his players at I've forgotten the name of the team now.
Well, you're talking about Mr. Neville.
Yeah. One of the Neville brothers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's just it has to do what Gary Lineker did when he went over to play in Spain after he left Leicester. And that's to learn the language.
Well, I think he's having intensive language training.
Yeah.
But, did you know their sister was a good coach as well? She's the UK basketball coach, ladies basketball coach.
They've got it, haven't they?
Pretty sporting family.
Yeah. Yeah. Liverpool are doing well.
How do you comfortably win on penalties?
Better than getting beat. Getting into the final is the thing. It's not how you get there; it's getting there.
We're both claret and blue people, for those that don't know. But in my case, claret and blue is propping up the bottom of I was going to call it the first division. Shows how old I am. Of the Premier League, and Stephen's team Burnley are riding pretty high in the Championship.
Yes.
So we've got this feeling we might just pass in the wind at the end of the season, and hope that we're riding high in the Championship next season.
Yeah, I hope so too. It's great to see Burnley up in third place in the division, and I hope they can sustain it between now and April, and possibly get one of the automatic promotion spots. That would be really good. I mean, Burnley as a team, if you think the town itself is only a population of 70,000 people, to actually get into the Premiership is quite an achievement. And we're doing a West Brom. West Brom now middle of the table, so that's not a problem. But West Brom used to go into the Premiership, down to the Championship, up to the Premiership, down to the Championship. Well, we're doing that as well. But because the thing is, it's a money game, isn't it? If you've not got the money, you can't buy the players.
Yes, our biggest problem, I think, is our top tier, i.e. our new chairman and our owner, know nothing about football.
Right.
One being an international American banker, and the second one being a accountant. So that's that. Our new chairman is really an accountant at heart, and he talks about fans as customers, and I don't think understands that being a fan is something completely different from being a customer.
That's true. That's true. I agree. It's good to hear the Swans doing well. Swansea, again, that's another team that are batting above their station. Sorry, it's a cricketing metaphor and a football question. But they are.
The young man from Blue Deer Designs, whose name I'm afraid I don't know because he puts blue at his. I actually sat in on one of his blabs last night.
Okay.
And he and another young gentleman who is a logo designer interviewed a young man from America with some quite strong views on how to do business. Okay. It was quite entertaining, but then I had to go and fetch Alice. So
right. Yeah, that's a good point. There are a lot of interesting blabs taking place. And the thing is that they're going to try and target the list that you see on the screen more to your interests, and that should happen.
Well, that's why they've had this pick your 3 topics thing when you've done it. Mark, he's doing like us. He's doing I think it was his second one last night, but he's doing a design blab at 6:30 on we're Thursday, so it must be 6:30 on a Wednesday. 6:30.
Right. Okay. Well, I've just
or was it 7 o'clock, Mark? Let us know.
I've just followed Mark. That's the great thing, that we can follow everyone who's involved. If anybody wants to come on camera, then
7:30. I told you my brain didn't want to work yesterday.
Okay.
It doesn't want to work today, but
I know how you feel. I'm going through the final throes of testing my new piece of software.
Oh, right. Does that only work with WordPress blogs?
Right. Okay. Thank you for the in, John. I've got a new piece of software coming out, launching later today. It's called Blog Booster. The thing is, if you've got a WordPress blog, and yes, it is. WordPress is automatic. We can export your WordPress blogs into an XLS file, spreadsheet file, and then without you doing anything else, we can import them into Blog Booster to give you a catalogue of all the blogs you've made. And the only thing we're taking is the blog title and the URL. Okay. You can then create a post bank, and that post bank is made up of those blogs that you want to promote. And if you've got 7 blogs you want to promote from your back catalogue, not backlog, then you can mark them and they go into the postbank. You then press the button which is labeled timer on, and depending on the time you've sent, interval you've set, it will tweet out those chosen blogs automatically. That's it, short and sweet. And it goes on forever and a day. Now, I've got to be honest here. When I started writing the software, I was getting 3,500 views a month on my blog, which I thought was quite reasonable. When I got the original idea, we managed to up it to 5,000, and the views on my blog this month, and we're talking actual figures here, are 10,500. So I've doubled my blog viewing. I'm not saying everybody could do that, but I'm saying you will increase the viewing of the blog. So I think the thing about a blog post is that you write it and you promote it on Twitter, you promote it on Facebook for a day or two, and then you forget about it. But it could well be that, well, for some people, every blog that they write is a gem. For most of us mere mortals, some of them are. If you write enough blogs, some of them must be good. So what Blog Booster does is it actually allows you to boost your blogs on Twitter. And because it can go 24/7, it allows you to reach a new audience. So not only are you tweeting out to people who see you during the day, but you're also tweeting out to people during the night. So you can increase legitimately increase the views on your blog. It's not to be used entirely on its own. I would suggest that you actually tweet things of interest to you as well, so people are actually reading a mixed blog. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Not only can you promote your own blogs, because if one of your friends sends you their exported WordPress list, you can import it into your Blog Booster, and you can put their blogs into your postbank as well, so that you can promote not only yourself but them. And if you've got two different interests, two different audiences, and they reciprocate, then without either of you doing anything extra special, you can be promoting each other. Now, that can obviously be grown exponentially. If you were, say, well, let's say you were doing the 30-day blogging challenge. This is my market where sort of over 10,000 people have done the blogging challenge with Kevin and Sarah. They could help promote each other, and Kevin and Sarah have shown interest too, because they want to promote people who are actually on the challenge, and they could do this easily with Blog Booster. That's my advert over. I'll no doubt speak about it more in the coming weeks as we come out of beta, but it's been an enjoyable thing to write, and I found it useful from the off. And Angelica's using it now, so we know it works on more than one machine, which is always good. I'm just tidying it up and getting some documentation to go with it. But it's a nice little piece of software which hopefully will take off. I mean, if you remember, if you don't try, you don't win. My first piece of software in the last 12 months was called 5-Day Push, which is a short 5-day course, which you probably don't remember. And then I wrote Astrantia, which is the dual language browser. Now that's going reasonably well. We've got users around the world of Astrantia dual language browser. You can see French on the left, English on the right, German on the left, English on the right. And it's a live translation of any web page that you want, but we've put in there German and French and Italian and Spanish newspapers, so you can read those in the morning, as well as the Telegraph or Daily Mail. Oh, right, okay. Well, it's good to say that. That's a good rehearsal of my presentation for Blog Booster, which I wish I'll be recording later. Yeah, so that's
I've just put the 30-day blogging challenge link into the.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah.
So if anybody is interested in having something that stimulates, is that the right word, or kicks you up the backside to get going on your blog, Sarah Arrow's 30-day challenge is pretty good, and thousands of people have actually done it. Hello, Nikki.
Welcome, Nikki. Again, if anybody wants to join us on camera, then please do so. Just press the call-in button, and you can join us live on air. We chat about anything and everything. Nothing's sacrosanct. I think
CJ says it's a great idea. You need to go and have a look.
Yeah.
Better put the link in.
Yeah. We'll put the link in. Hang on.
It's a good tool, well worth a look at.
We've had people two use cases, if you like. CJ is quite correct in terms of if you're learning a language, it's ideal, but it's also has practical applications. We have friends who have places in Spain and the Spanish coast, and they use it to read the local newspaper while they're back in the UK. And the second use case is one of our American friends who's on empire.cred has pen pals, and they exchange messages over the web, and she can now use Astrantia to translate it. So it's serving her time as well. People still do pen pals, yeah. Well, I suppose pen pals is the wrong word, email pals, but pen pals got a sort of better ring to it, don't they?
Well, they weren't called letter pals, were they? They were called pen pals. So why not stick with pen pals, even though it's email?
Yeah, true. Yeah, so there you are.
You were going to put the Astrantia link up.
Sorry, John?
I thought you were going to put the Astrantia link in the...
my browser's... my mic's brilliant today, but I'm just going to...
Your browser's running slow instead.
No,
I have to say that not running Manycam, your quality of your camera has improved as well.
Oh, good.
Manycam definitely was bringing the quality of your camera down as well. So your picture was fuzzy. All pictures are fuzzy, aren't they? You know, mine's fuzzy from all the hair, but...
Okay, well, thank you for that. That's good to know. As I said at the top of the show, I've had sound problems, and I did a blab yesterday, and with Barbara Sohal, and we were both looking forward to it. And after 2.5 minutes, my sound cut out, which is not good when you're doing a live blab interview. So I was able to ask her questions by text. So I typed in the question in the message box, and then brought it across, and Babs answered it. But also we were joined by another friend, Simon Raybould. He came in live on camera and asked a few questions, and then she would have asked as well. Yeah, so I would love, I've got to be 100% reliable. So Manycam has been ditched because it was a layer between Blab and the camera, wasn't it? And not just the sound, but the mic as well. So I don't know what it was, but yeah. Indeed, I agree. Getting the lighting right is a good idea. We're all learning. That's one of the things. If you are, I'm actually going to post a link. If you want to know more about presenting, then there is a Facebook group called Behind the Scenes Live, and this is my personal invitation to you to join it. If you apply to join it, and say that I sent you. They are into soundcraft and camera craft, specifically related to Blab. They run weekly Blabs and are helped and assisted by the wonderful Barb Tomlin, who's the, what's I call her? Barb is the Blab Wikipedia, but she's a real person. And if you want to know anything about Blab, anything about hosting, about being a guest, about how it works, then Barb is the person to ask, and I'm hoping to interview her next week, or certainly in February. Right, thanks, Kelvin. Just stay live on the Blab. I'll sort it out afterwards. Yeah, so Barb, I'm hoping to interview as well. In fact, if anybody who's watching would like to be interviewed, then just let me know, and we can put together a 45-minute interview which introduces Blab to you. The great thing about Blab is that not only can you watch us live, which is obviously the best way to do it. After this, there will be an MP4 which we'll upload to YouTube, and people can watch us there, and it can get promoted from there. And also you can upload it to Facebook. Now, surprisingly, if you upload a video from Blab to Facebook, it does get views. There are outlets for Blab after the show on YouTube and on Facebook, and I can recommend using both. It's very easy to upload and put the text with it. And then, of course, each of our Blabs gets a blog. So it's, as it says on my profile, blogging, blabbing, and coding from Britain. Yeah. Oh yeah, true. The call to action button. Thank you for that reminder, CJ. The call to action button means that you can put a link to the video you've uploaded and ask people to do something. I used to get confused when people said, "Have you put your call to action in your blog?" And I always wonder, well, so I've written a blog. What do I want people to do? I want people to read it. Do we need a call to action? And apparently we do, and I've been using it. And it's basically at the end of the blog, people want something to do next, or at the end of the video, people want something to do next. And whilst it's called a call to action, it is, the next step for the person viewing or viewing the video or reading your blog. And that can take them off to your website. It can take them off anywhere you wish.
You can actually add up to 4 buttons to any YouTube video in YouTube. I don't know whether you know that or not.
Yep.
And they can link to other YouTube videos or to websites. And you can do that neatly by adding on to the end of your video in a video editor a box with 4 pretty pictures or whatever, or stills from the videos you want to use.
Yeah.
And then in YouTube you simply define those areas and add a link to those areas.
All right, I'll have to check that out.
Yep. Sorry, butted in on your conversation there.
No. No. It's our conversation. I'm just keeping things going until somebody jumps in on camera. That's basic.
Would anyone like to join us?
Yeah, you're more than welcome to join us on camera. I mean, it is the first time you come on camera is the most difficult. But as you can see, John and I are friendly and personable, hopefully, and we'd love you to come in and just chat. We're not going to force anybody, but just press the call in button.
And we've been joined by Steve Lawson, a gardener and beekeeper.
Well, let's have him in. He can join us on camera.
Come and join us, Steve. We talk about allotment keeping, hens, and that sort of thing, as well as technical stuff. So if you've got anything you wouldn't mind talking about gardening wise, or tell us about your bees, problems with the bees, you're welcome to jump into the seat and talk to us.
Indeed. It's an area we should all be concerned about, because we hear dribs and drabs in the newspapers about a disease that's spreading amongst bees, and that we really do need bees to have our crops, don't we? We don't get fruit crops if there's no bees, do we? Is it as simple as that?
Yeah. No germination through pollination, and we're knackered, basically.
Yeah, and it's a worldwide problem, isn't it? I mean, the fruit grows in the States, the citrus grows, the orange and the orange grows. They've had major problems because of and they don't know what causes it. I'm going to talk rubbish, so he actually joins us to correct me. I mean, the little bit that I know is that a hive can disappear overnight, and there's nothing that can be done. I mean, you lose the queen, you lose the hive. Yeah, I'm happy keeping chickens, CJ. Bees is yeah. I think I know there was a campaign, wasn't there, where we should all get a single beehive at the bottom of the garden.
I don't know. There are 4 hives. Are you going to let Steve in?
Oh yes, I've
There are 4 hives in a specific area on our allotments that's well fenced off.
Right.
Hi, Steve. Welcome.
Hello, Steve. Right, can you tell us a true story on bees, please? It's good to see you.
True story. I've been away from my computer. I was getting coffee, and it's very early here in the East Coast of the USA.
Wow. Yeah.
So, what do you mean by the true story?
Right. Okay. There is just from a layman's point of view, we've heard that there is a problem with the bee population, that it's decreasing.
Yes.
Yeah. And could you give an overview of what is happening, why, and what effect that has on fruit crops?
The term used is CCD, colony collapse disorder, and although no one's actually taken blame for it, but the finger's being pointed at pesticides mainly.
Okay.
And those pesticides are neonicotinoids. I have trouble saying that. One of the main problems is it's a systemic pesticide, and there's a powder placed on the seed, and the pesticide actually grows in with the plant, and it becomes part of the plant and part of the pollen, and the bees collect the pollen, take it back to the hive, and when they eat it, it's like a nerve agent. They kind of go trembling and then die.
Right.
That's happening in industrialized countries, that, like in the U.S., a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
Those areas that aren't using those pesticides, I think Norway banned it.
Right.
Let's say, I think New Zealand is one place that there's not a lot of pesticides being used, and their problem's not as bad.
Okay. So is there any way that things can be changed?
I think things are beginning to change slowly. Some of the major hardware and gardening stores in the U.S. are starting to ban them, like Lowe's and Home Depot. You guys might not be familiar with those, but they're huge big box stores that sell plants. Some of those are not carrying plants that have neonicotinoids. I think when the pesticide industry, Monsanto and Dow Chemicals, when they come up with a better pesticide, I think they'll be phased out. But right now, their lobbyists in the U.S. or in Congress are just too powerful. So we're still dealing with it.
Yeah, I don't know quite what's happening in the UK, but obviously the same problem exists. We've looked at the problem with bees. Can you speak about? John said you were a beekeeper yourself. You are?
Yes, I'm a beekeeper.
Right. Can you talk about? Can we spend a moment talking about the joys of beekeeping then? Because I could talk forever about the joy of keeping chickens.
I have chickens as well.
More about bees. How would you actually start beekeeping if you were interested?
In the UK, usually people start either by catching wild swarms, or they use what's called a nucleus, and you buy it's a mini hive basically. Then you install it into your regular size hive.
Right.
In the US, a lot of people use what's called packages, and you buy about 3 pounds of bees in a container, a vented container, and inside is another small container that has the queen and a few attendants. And you basically just go and shake those into your hive, and then with a bit of luck, they stay there and begin producing more bees and eventually honey.
Wow!
Here I have a photograph.
Right. Okay.
I'm gonna do a podcast later in February on bees, and here's a picture of my hives.
Right.
These are not the standard type that you see in the UK and the US. These are horizontal, as opposed to the small boxes that you see going vertically. These are horizontal hives. Was first started in in Kenya, I believe, as a economical way to build beehives in a way that anybody could build one.
Okay.
Um,
What about?
They're about.
Sorry.
Here's my Pillsbury Doughboy suit.
Right. Okay. You've got to wear protection.
Yes, I've never been stung. People ask me that question. I've only been beekeeping for. I'm going into my second year,
Right.
so I'm fairly new at it. I'm a babe in the woods, but I've chose top bar hives or the horizontal hives, and there's not a lot of people who do that. It's fairly new, and so I'm reaching out to other top bar hive keepers just for camaraderie.
Right. And what about upkeep? We saw you there suited up with at the hive. Do you have to maintain them daily, or?
No, actually, you want to leave them alone as much as possible,
right, okay.
And only open it up when needed. About every couple of weeks for a top bar hive. The horizontal top bar hive requires a bit more maintenance. A standard hive, Langstroth hive, he might not go in there or he or she might not go in there for a couple of months at a time. It leaves them to their work.
Okay. And when do you collect the honey? I mean, you said you've got
usually.
Sorry.
Usually, it's done in the fall. It all depends, or just after, or usually in the fall. I'm going into my second year. I didn't collect any honey this year. The weather was terrible here in the East Coast in the U.S. and they didn't. I'm not sure if they put enough honey up for themselves, but you only take what would be an excess for them. If you don't think they've put up enough honey to survive over the winter, then you just leave. You don't collect any honey at all.
Okay, so you got to make sure the colony survives for the next year. What happens?
Yes.
What happens over the winter to a hive?
Well, bees don't really hibernate like a bear, but when it gets cold, let's say in Minnesota or Canada, or there's lots of beekeepers in Canada as well. The bees they go to the hive and they form a cluster. The first thing they do is they actually reduce the population. The queen will slow down laying,
mm-hmm.
and they'll reduce the population as it comes into winter, and then they'll form a cluster inside the hive around the queen, and they have a way of vibrating their bodies that produces heat, and so they'll stay in there in a little cluster and keep themselves warm by vibrating.
Wow.
Some hives, I've seen photographs of hives in Canada where the hives were completely covered in snow.
Yeah.
And it comes spring when it melts, they come out to fly.
Okay. Well, I mean, evolution-wise, they've been here longer than we have, so they've evolved to be able to keep the species going year-round, way before hives, presumes.
Yes, they were using hollow trees and whatever cavity they could find, and usually. People insulate the hives. You'll see that in the northern United States and Canada and cold climates. They'll wrap the hive in some type of insulation, because the wood that we use to build the hives out of isn't really as thick as or a good insulator as the natural spaces that they find in the wild.
Mm-hmm. And so you right, okay. Excuse me while I get a question together. John, help.
I also saw that you were a gardener as well, Steve. Does your garden benefit from having the hives?
That's how I got into beekeeping. Was when I was growing up as a kid, I saw lots and lots of bees. I used to step on them by accident when they were in the clover, and then once I started gardening after I retired, I noticed that I wasn't seeing any honeybees. So I said, well, I'll get some bees and to pollinate my garden. And I live in a rural area. There's lots of cotton and soybeans that are planted. and my bees come out, they fly up into the air and take off to the cotton fields and the soybean fields and almost ignore my little garden. Later in the year, they'll come around, but they go to the richest source of pollen, and unfortunately, that's the agricultural crops around me, and not my little garden.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about chickens. Chickens need feeding every day. They need cleaning every week. Bees sound a whole lot easier. Although I couldn't now forego the fresh eggs every day. But yeah, I mean, it is gardening, allotmenteering, which John and I do as well. It's all part of. Well, I enjoy being at allotment and actually growing things and seeing things grow and enjoying them later. Yeah. And it's presumably the same with the bees and the honey and your gardening. It's a pleasure.
Yes. Well, I have chickens. I have chickens also.
Oh wow.
We have I think we have 9 at present.
Uh-huh.
We lost one to a coyote, I believe.
Right. Okay. That's always the danger, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's lots of predators where I live. There's coyotes. There's bobcats. There's feral cats. So we have to keep them. I let them free range during the day, but then in the evenings we go out and close everything up, and then turn them loose in the mornings.
That's exactly what we do. Because we've got foxes in the area, and we know that they do like the chickens. So as soon as it goes dark, then we close the enclosure up. I was living in what's called an igloo, an EGLU, which is a prefabricated hen house, which means it's a lot easier to clean.
Is that one? Is it made of plastic? Yes, in fact, I've seen those.
We did have the wooden one, but then we saw this and we thought, well, that would be a lot easier to maintain and clean, and it is, because the parts are removable and there's nowhere for grime to hide, so that they are. That's might be the wrong URL, but that's the right word. In the bottom right hand corner. Yeah, so keeping chickens is a pleasure with the fresh eggs every day.
I've got a hen house and run sitting in my washroom at the moment, Stephen.
Right.
Tom, my eldest lad, bought his partner. They don't live here. They've got their own house. A hen house and run for Christmas.
Oh wow!
But they delivered the wrong one. The wrong model. He got none. They sent, and this happened like 2 or 3 days before Christmas. They express delivered him a replacement.
Yeah.
But they've never got around to collecting the other one.
Oh right, so you've got a spare.
So if they don't collect it in the next few months, it might get erected in the back garden, and we might come back to having a few chickens again.
Oh, that's good. The chickens are good. Yeah,
if I do it this time, it'll be a lot nearer the house.
Yeah,
I think that was the biggest bugbear. They were quite a long way from the house. I'm just welcoming out.
For reasons Steve mentioned, you've got to be able to get to them every night and lock them up every night to keep predators away. Because if you don't do that, it's on the night that you don't do that the fox comes along.
Yes, well, having had 33 taken in one night, we're going back 20 years, I know how it can be, and each one was a different rare breed, so it was quite a sad event.
Indeed.
Is the igloo, is that a chicken tractor? Is that one of the movable hive?
It is. When you buy it, it is on wheels. So yes, but then you've got to make it fox proof. So it tends to be in situ, but it could be wheeled around. The general idea is that you can, if your chickens are kept in the extended run all day, you can actually move it around the lawn and they will chomp a different part of the lawn every day and save you cutting the grass. We decided 2 years ago to actually give them the run of the garden. So they've now got their own part of the garden, so they keep the grass short. And the igloo is now a fixed unit, and it's been bedded in a little bit. But yeah, you can. It is a mobile one. It is a plastic one. Yeah. Right. Okay.
And what's the weather like? Do you have a lot of snow where you are, Steve? And we keep seeing.
No, the weather here. I'm in South Carolina, in what's considered the low country of South Carolina. It's almost semi-tropical. It gets very warm. Today it's going to be, or tomorrow it's going to be 65. The next day perhaps 70 degrees. I don't know what that is in centigrade, but that's Fahrenheit.
We could have the centigrade Fahrenheit argument over and over. I prefer Fahrenheit because it's higher, for one, and that's how we were brought up with Fahrenheit. So yeah, 65, 70 is very pleasant.
Yes, it.
Yeah, you got.
It's beginning to warm up here on the.
Yeah, well, we're still.
I'm sorry.
We're still waiting for our snow.
70 degrees Fahrenheit is about 21 degrees centigrade. That's pretty warm.
21.
Here today, I think we'll be lucky if it makes 14. So, but the sun is shining, which is a positive step, because we pretty much had rain for the last week.
John, what part of the world are you in?
I live right in the centre of England. So, and Steve, have you heard of Stonehenge? Steve?
Yeah.
Well, Stephen, Stonehenge.
Yeah, I live in glorious, wonderful Wiltshire, about 20 miles from Stonehenge, similar distance from Avebury and from Salisbury Cathedral. It's sort of a beautiful part of the world to visit. And of course, Stonehenge is one of the world's historic sites. And everyone should try and sort of visit there once. We have the National Trust here, which allows you to go into certain properties which have been preserved for the nation, and Stonehenge is one of those. So we can visit Stonehenge anytime, and we generally go 2 or 3 times a year, because now that they've built a new visitor centre, which was multi-million-pound. It looks like an airport terminal, but in fact it's the visitor centre, and it's got a museum in there, it's got the restaurant, it's got the shop, which is quite a tasteful shop. But it is 1.5 miles away from Stonehenge. So the old one used to be next to Stonehenge, and you just walked across the road and you're there. Now you can walk through the English countryside for 1.5 miles, and suddenly as you go up the road, you can't see the henge. You can't see it as you're going up the road, and then you just come over the top and you can see the henge laid out before you. And it's the most amazing, breathtaking sight every time you actually do it. And to go there and just walk around, there's an atmosphere there that you can genuinely feel. I mean, we've seen photographs of President Obama there. He got the place to himself when he came over last year. But it's during the week anyway. It's not too crowded. You can walk around. You can't actually touch the stones. I'll come back to that in a minute. But you can walk around the stones and get a feel for how it must have been thousands of years ago. Of course, Stonehenge lies in the middle of an area which is but has many historical sites. I mean, we still marvel at how it was built, and they're finding out new things all the time. Now, there are 2 days a year when you can touch the stones, and that's the summer and winter solstice, when thousands of people gather, including the Druids, to celebrate the winter and summer solstices, and those events are always well attended. Right, you asked me where I lived. I live near Stonehenge.
There was just a special on PBS about Stonehenge. here. And what amazed me was the where they brought the stones from. And there were two types of stones. Ones that they were called blue. One was blue stones that was the farthest, and they apparently had brought them over water and land before the invention of the wheel.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, if we think about how the pyramids were built, it's a similar time, and the technology just wasn't there, and they shipped the stone from, as you say, in boats and then over land, and you're thinking, how? Well, there's a bigger question which we will never answer, and that is why.
Yeah. Well, supposedly it's an astrological.
Yeah, it's lined up. It's lined up, which is why there's winter and summer solstice. The stones line up, and the sunrise comes through a gap in the stones. That's quite amazing. But it's not the only stone circle, of course. I mean, the ERIS stone circle, which is about 30 miles away from there. And then, of course, there are stone circles in France. In fact, there are stone circles around the world. So you've got disparate civilizations who must have not, well, they may have been in contact. Well, they must have been in contact with each other, building stone circles. Yeah.
Kelvin Fagan types in ley lines. He was talking about there's actually they think that bees do better at intersecting ley lines than any other place. I don't know why, but it's one of the things that I've read.
Yeah. I bow to your knowledge. It could well be the situation. There's a whole lot we don't know, and it's fascinating to discover.
Yes.
Exactly. How we got where we are today, which is why history is important, isn't it? General discussion. Do we have to bother about what happened before? Is history relevant to today?
It always is.
It's how we got here, isn't it? So it must have some relevance.
That's true. I mean, the history of technology, if we just, as we're of a certain age, we can all go back to the Apple IIe, which was the beginning of things, wasn't it? Yeah, the Apple computers, and then the Commodore PET, and then the IBM machine. We're very lucky in Swindon. We've got a museum of computing, and according to them, computing started with the Apple IIe.
I had a Commodore 64.
I'm keeping quiet here because I used to work for Atari, so I've never owned up to that for a long time.
There's nothing wrong with working for Atari. I mean, these are people who introduced us to technology slowly.
I joined Atari after I left Apricot, actually. So.
Right. Yeah. Because that was the time it was all taking off, wasn't it?
Well, I was involved in the Commodore PET in 1979, so
right.
I date back very much. And ACT, who sold the Apricot in the UK, they sold a product called the Sirius One before that, which was designed and built by a guy called Chuck Peddle, who invented the 6502. Yep. Which is the processor at the core of the Commodore and various other things. And he also designed the PET. So I kind of once hung around with those sort of guys in the very, very early days. Who did Apricot become, Stephen? Apricot was taken over by Mitsubishi, and one day they just decided they didn't want to be in the PC world any longer, and they made everybody redundant literally overnight and closed down. So that's what happened to Apricot. Bought by the Japanese, kept it running for 2 years, and then literally, and I mean literally, we're closing down, and everybody was gone inside 30 days.
Ruthless. But it was an important part of computer history. Anyway, let's come bang up to date. And Steve, John mentioned that you have a podcast. Can you tell us more about that?
I think Steve mentioned he has a podcast, not me.
Yes, I did get the gist that Steve has a podcast.
Well, I haven't done a podcast. I'm doing a blog in perhaps February sometime. I may do it sooner, but on beekeeping. I've yet to do one.
Right,
I'm still learning the ins and outs of abs, but or blab. But that's going to be the lead in, and the topics are centered around Les Crowder's teachings.
Yeah.
That Les Crowder wrote this book, Top Bar. Yeah, is that backwards for you guys? It is.
No, yeah, no, it's the right way around.
It's the right way around. Yeah, it's in focus. Yeah, it's good. Right. Yeah, it's good.
It's good. I got something wrong. So, but I'm going to be doing that in February, maybe sooner, and to try to have some interaction with other top bar beekeepers.
Yeah. Right. Well, be sure to pass us a link, and we'll help promote it once you've decided when it's going to be. We'll certainly help promote it for you, because that's one of the key things about on Blab. We are a community. Everybody helps everybody else, and everybody promotes each other, and that's the way that the CEO wants it to go, and that's the way it should go. It should go naturally. People recommending the service. We know that everybody we've introduced has been amazed. The story. I mean, this. I'm going to say it again, John. Just 30 seconds. This evolved out of Bebo. Bebo, as we all remember, was sold for 850 million to AOL, and AOL ran it into the ground, and then it was bought back for $1 million. And the gentleman who's British, who is backing Blab. This is Bebo evolved. This came out of Bebo, and so it's got good financial backing, and they're in it for the long term, and they're looking forward. At the moment, their target is 7% growth a week, which, if we could achieve that in our own businesses, would be phenomenal. And I get the sense that they are achieving that from the interview that CEO Sohal gave the other night, and you'll find a link to that earlier in today's chat. The thing about people on Blab is they're all approachable. So yes, we're here to support each other. We are a community. For those of you who are new to Blab and want to know more about it and have got questions, you can ask either John and I now, or UK time 5:30 Monday through Friday is the welcome show, which Brittany and Anna run, and they will take any questions. And as now, they will say to you that I'm about to say to you, if you'd like to come on camera, press the call in button, and you're welcome to join us. Now, in order to make that easier, we've been blabbing for an hour. Yeah. Shall we start the recording now? We've got a beautiful section on beekeeping. We've talked about chickens. So before we start the recording, let's say thank you to everybody who's joined us. Please don't go. We're going to go off live recording and carry on chatting. But it's been a pleasure, John.
I've enjoyed today. Completely different from all the previous 10 we've done. So
indeed, yes. we don't know what's going to happen. So thank you to everybody who's watched, and we look forward to seeing
Steve joining us as well.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah,
and bringing a bit of American sunshine to our discussions in good old grey England. Should I say Britain? Because it is Britain for blabbing.
It is, yeah. So we're going to pause the recording now.